Record. So, Bismillah, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. We're going to begin from the eighth word, and it is about the necessity of religion. Necessity of religion. Why is it necessary for humans to be connected to the spirit and message of the monotheistic religions? Okay, so I have highlighted a couple of things. In the beginning, he wants us to see a vision of how humanity's nature is in need of true religious practice. Starting from the first highlighted paragraph, the way to the right requires observance of certain laws. So he's given us a parallel, and a parallel is really important because it is graspable, understandable by most of humanity, and it is not difficult, while at the same time it contains a very deep message. Okay, so two brothers travel together. Coming to a fork in the road, they see a wise old man and ask him which way to go or to take. He tells them the way to the right requires observance of certain laws Shwenkautini Komalayasa. But this observance brings a certain security and happiness, while the road to the left promises a certain kind of freedom, but within this freedom lies certain danger and distress. Now the choice is yours. So basically, from observation of life, when we follow rules, even if it is a religious rule or religious law, it is better for our case. We tend to feel more security and happiness. And the left road, the problem with the left road is it is deceptive. It is full of deception because it promises freedom while at the same time it is slavery. It enslaves the seeker or the follower of that path. And there is enslavement and distress. They're never truly happy. They may say it apparently on the surface, but never their soul says something else. Okay, the other brother, who is immoral and layabout, takes the left way for the sake of freedom. He seems comfortable, but in fact feels no inner tranquility. And tranquility, as we said, could you tell us the meaning, miss? Do you remember the meaning of tranquility? If you're not available to write, let me know, please. So, voilà, تضلني excellent. So there is no tranquility, and it creates a hellish state that nobody really actually desires. And one of the things interesting about this word, the eighth word, is Badiou is very realistic. He talks about life as a desert, and there's a well, and the well is our lifespan. We are thrown into the well, whether or not we like. When we're born, we cannot stop the passage of time, can we? And he's realistic in both cases. He says, yes, there is a desert. There is like a dragon, a dungeon, a well, and two insects. But he gives this reality into account and then tries to transform the nature of the dragon, that is death, into a domesticated horse. And the desert is still the desert, but you can still see the beauties in the desert. So it is not only a dry desert. There are beautiful things happening. Okay. So we move on, and here we have, although inwardly distressed, he's talking about the psychology of the disbeliever. Inwardly distressed, and despite his spirits and heart's complaints, his carnal, evil commanding soul pretends everything is fine and so ignores their weeping, pretending that he's enjoying himself in a garden. He starts eating all kinds of fruits for free, but some of them are poisonous and will harm him. So the idea is pretending everything is fine. I recently watched, a discussion between some LGBTQ advocates thinking or saying that they were completely happy, they were fine. It actually reminded me of this because yes, the evil commanding soul loves it. Of course, they like it, but the heart says something else, and they're gonna either ignore it or make themselves drunk. And the voice of the heart, I think, never diminishes completely. In Hadith Qudsi, God says, I'll treat my servants in the way they think of me. This man sees everything happening to him as having no meaning, and thus that is the way it is for him. So he is and will be treated in the way he thinks and sees. He neither dies nor lives well, but merely persists in an agony of suspense. Persist means he continues to live in the pain. Agony means pain. Suspense means they're like hanged over a wall. This is suspense. يعني لچاوانی هلدرين وكو چون جلكي با قلابيكو جلكي بها هلا واسي أو ماونة وكو جلكا لسسبنسان. And it is really important because according to this hadith Qudsi, the world reflects our inner world. That is one of the best realizations we can ever get. So we cannot change the world. That is very sad. Many people try to change the world, make the conditions better, trying to create a facade, fake, counterfeit garden, maybe for their children. But in reality, there's always danger. There's always the ways in which that God yubtala us, yeah, right? He tests us. And it's just a matter of creating the garden within your heart, within your mind. Okay. If Mr. Muhammad, no, they're not pressed. Okay. Recalling the other, recall means remember. Remembering the other, well-disciplined, wise brother, let us see his situation. So we're now moving to the situation of the, well-disciplined brother that is on the right path. So look on the good side of everything, and is generally happy with everything. So this inner happiness is not something created outside. Okay, let me go to the other page. So here we have the brother who took the left way of self-trust and self-willed freedom is about to fall into the dragon's mouth. It's very important, Miss, and everybody else who's gonna watch it later, that the West, as far as I've read and listened to people talking about the West, the individuals there, they have a self-confidence all the time, this self-trust. They trust the self. And for them, the self is not the heart, the fitra. For them, the self has become the evil commanding self. Most likely, it is what they trust on, the evil commanding soul. And the individuals are also following self-willed freedom. So this guy who has these two diseases, self-trust and self-willed freedom, is about to fall into the dragon's mouth, trembling with fear. He's always anxious, so anxiety is always present in the atheistic heart. Lonely, exactly lonely. Even nature can sometimes look like corpses. You think they travel to beautiful countries and seeing these mountains become corpses to them after a while. So they're not going to be a source of consolation. Consolation and in despair, obviously this is the problem because it is a sickness. Despair is the future is almost pointless, whatever you do. Recently I talked with a teacher who's not a believer, and she said that the world is inherently meaningless and nothing is actually having any point, and that is the exact point that we have to create whatever meaning we can for ourselves. So he said, in the meaninglessness of the universe, we create meaning. I mean, I was like, really? Do you buy that? Okay, and considers himself a prisoner facing the attacks of wild beasts. Okay, he adds to his distress by eating apparently delicious but actually poisonous fruits that are only samples. They're not meant to be eaten for their own sake, but to persuade people to see the originals and become customers of them. This is really important for Islam, from the Islamic perspective. All the fruits and blessings and bounties of God, they're there for us to taste them, appreciate them, and be convinced that all the efforts taken for the creation of a fruit, if it dies or is eaten in an instant, the whole point is really hidden. So there must be another realm, another place, another reality and domain in which we will see an everlasting aspect of these bounties. Okay. He changes his day into darkness. He wrongs himself and changing his situation into a hell-like one. So, okay, he studies every different and beautiful incident in all. So now we're coming back to the good brother who studies every different and beautiful incident in awe. Okay, Hamu Rodawek, لتعجب دراسك. جليل ما مستسعيزه باسي. He's really interested into studying things with a pleasant fear. So there's also a fear and a lovely quest for knowledge. So knowledge is one of the highest marks for a believer. Those who know are not the same as those who don't know, obviously, the Quranic verse. Okay, he does not eat up the fig tree's fruit. Rather, he samples them and understanding reality postpones his pleasure and enjoys the anticipation. So basically, yes, as I said, the parable, the story, which one, Miss? Uh, okay, which one of the words did you mean? تعجب. تعجب. Azar? No, no. Awe means تعجب. Awful دو معناها معناه يعني خراب معناه يعني قرب للتعجب. حيران حيرتي بالعربية. خلاص. Yes. Yeah, just a quick reminder, we have two brothers. They're in an intersection. They either have to go to the left or the right. There's a wise man telling them each what is to be expected. Then they go to a desert, and in the desert, they're immediately thrown into a deep well. عشان now بيدك يقولوا. And there are two insects that are, and the guy hangs himself with a branch of a tree. And there are two black and white creatures that are eating away from the branch. Once the branch is eaten away, the guy falls down to the mouth of the depth of the well, and there is the dragon waiting for the man falling into the mouth. So what do you understand by the dragon waiting at the bottom of the well? What do you think it is? What could it mean? We have a well, Birek Mane, okay. What do you think it is? It is death, okay? Sure, sure. Basically, he is in a hellish state already because he's hanging to a branch, maybe eats something, but still he's very stressed, and he sees the dragon at any time. He could fall into it, right? So the dragon here is death. Okay, he goes into the mouth of death and he gets pain and stuff. But for the believer, it's gonna be changed. The dragon becomes like a horse that the believer rides to get to the infinite realm of bliss and felicity and happiness. Okay, having perceived the beauty of the reality, he respects the perfection of the owner of reality and therefore deserves his mercy. So Badiou Zaman Said Nursi focuses heavily on beauty of God, Jamal. So we tend to forget. We sometimes give a lot of focus on the Jalal aspect of the majesty, and we tend to ignore the other very too powerful aspect of his being, and that is beauty. So through beauty, through humans perceiving God's beauty, then we're going to respect perfection and we're going to love because some of the Gnostics have said beauty comes from, sorry, love comes from interacting and encountering the beautiful. So God is the beautiful with a capital B, that every little beautiful things are derived from him. And once we appreciate his beauty, then we're going to love him more. Okay, the insects are the troubles we face. So there are insects in the well, and there are the troubles and the calamities that God uses to test us. In reality, are God's gentle warnings that prevent believers from becoming healers. That is really, really deep. Any of the troubles we face, it could be our car breaking down, we get an unexpected visit of sickness, right? And any other calamities, these are all gentle warnings that prevent me and you and everybody else who are practicing Muslims and believers, hopefully, from becoming heedless. Heedless what ghafal. Okay? That's why there's a huge spiritual element in sickness, right? And even in old age, recently we had a guest who was about the age of 7 years old, and she just lost her husband, and she said, I have a distaste for this worldly life. I want to move and die as well. So even in old age, there's this beauty of God reminding us that the world is not worth it. We have to pay our attention more towards the eternal abode, eternal home. Okay? Now let's move on. Okay. So God, one of the characteristics of God Almighty is changing everything into one thing to make various plants and fruits from the same soil. Okay, so to create all living things from one drop of water. So it's very, very interesting. Look at the living things. They're created from one drop of water, and to nourish and sustain all living things in the same manner, but through different foods. So it is, we have different foods, but they're all fed. The idea of everything is being nourished, sustained individually, but through different foods is really mind-boggling. And creating everything out of one thing and changing everything into one thing is a sign mark peculiar to the creator of everything. So only God can do this. So creating everything out of one thing. Imagine we have a soil, and this soil could give rise to different types of trees, isn't it? So from the same soil, you can plant different fruits and productions. It's really, really, really remarkable. And it is as if each atom of the soil is programmed to receive the special characteristics, features of the plant that you're about to, plant it into the soil. You see what I mean؟ يعني خلا كمان هي ام خلا لي عقلك يبيدرا خب برنامج برمجة كراوة ك هذيك لو تو يعني كتير كريت بو جوري كهي بيوي دسكاري كجوريك يعني it's like they're all obedient servants. In some deeds, those who pursue this transient life place themselves in hell, even though they stay in what appears to them as paradise on earth. So, they're going to place themselves in hell in this world before they go on to face the punishment for their transgression. Okay. No. So basically, one verse is reminded of us. Oh, Alhamdulillah. Okay. So any questions you have, please let me know as we go along. Okay. Let me see. So I was gonna say something else regarding it. So there's this verse in the Quran, very, very interesting and scary at the same time. And this is the verse. Whatever good befalls you is from God, and whatever ill befalls you is from yourself. Very, very interesting, right? When humans are faced with, I don't know, a dissatisfaction with life, they are complaining about life, they wish that they were never born, they don't appreciate the blessing of life, and so on. It basically it's coming from themselves. Whatever ill, shar, okay, that we're doing is coming from ourselves. But whatever good is coming from God. Even if it is happiness, it is not something we can create. It is something that can descend on our soul. The sakina, the tranquility, the serenity, the peace is not something of our creation. We cannot self-will to create it, right? This self-willed freedom. We cannot, as a human subject, go and create happiness. And through self-trust, we're gonna go away from, happiness more and more because the self or the evil commanding soul, it cannot control life. And whatever happens, since it is poor and weak and needy, is not going to be able to face up to them. Okay. Let's go to the ninth word. It reminds me that you often tell us the good's root is from heaven. Yeah, exactly. Sure. So the root for evil is grounded in hell, and the hell, the agent, the faculty that brings and pushes us to hell is our nafs. So I would say the evil is grounded in our nafs, that is hell. So it is what brings and pushes us to hell. Very problematic. Also, the different prayer times. Now we are at the ninth word, and it's very, very interesting. It has given me a perspective I kind of never had regarding prayer and how the different times can remind us of God's doings in the universe, his actions and acts and activities manifest every single moment in the universe. It could be the destruction of things, it could be him giving life to things, it could be God dispensing with creatures and bringing new creatures in. So we're going to go through them, through the highlighted ones, and hopefully get a better grasp. Okay. Just as his lordship's sovereignty demands devotion and obedience, his holiness requires us to see our defects and seek his forgiveness. It is one of the realizations that was really striking to me. God has a lot of names, and actually, I don't know if I forgot to send the names of God in Arabic and English as well, because that would be a great practice to not only theoretically understand the names, but to actually experience and witness God's names. That'll be on another level for sure if you could manage it. Okay, so his sovereignty, God is sovereign, means nothing is beyond God. So he's so majestic, so powerful, so all powerful over all things that it requires us devotion and obedience. We cannot do anything but to devote to this power and his holiness. He's so holy that requires us to see our defects. Imagine holy Ona Pirosa, we look at ourselves, we're not like that. And we are looking at our defects and our weaknesses, and we're going to seek forgiveness while realizing God's holiness and hopefully work on our weaknesses and defects by submission, devotion, and walking our way through, or as though pulling ourselves through our bootstraps in English, as they say it. And there's nothing for humans except for what they're trying towards. So through this, trekking of unveiling of veils, we can get closeness and proximity to God. Further proximity. Okay, let's look at the times of each of the prayers and how they are linked to cosmic order. Cosmic means the cosmos, universal happenings. Okay, so the time for Zuhr. Okay, now let's start from Fajr. Before sunrise corresponds to spring's birth, the moment when sperm takes refuge in the mother's womb, and to the first of the 6 consecutive days during which the heavens and earth were created. It recalls how God disposes his power and acts in such times and events. It's very, very interesting. When we wake up for Fajr, it must remind us that it looks like the beginning of everything, the universe, the beginning of our creation in the mother's womb, the beginning of spring, and how things are lively and everything is in an ecstatic state. The time for Zohar, just past midday, may be likened or corresponds to the middle of summer, the completion of adolescence. So we are adults right now. I think it could apply for us. We are in the time of Zuhr, and the period of humanity's creation, the world's lifetime. So obviously, he says the creation of humanity in the world's lifetime is basically because humans are created way older than our lifetime on Earth. We were created in a time we don't know, in a primordial time where God asked each one of our souls, Alastu bi rabbikum, and we said, Qalu bala, yes, you are our Lord. It actually happened way older than could be, I guess, previous to the creation of the universe. God only knows, but it is really primordial. It also points to God's manifestations of mercy and profusion of blessings in those events and times. So we are living our lives filled and perfused and praying of his blessings. We're young, we're working, alhamdulillah, hopefully we're not sick, and we are in the middle of our life. At the time of Asr afternoon resembles autumn, old age, and the happy time of the last prophet. Upon him be peace and blessing. It calls to mind the divine acts and the all merciful's favors in them. So next time today, when we're going to pray Asr, we're going to think about how it resembles when the sun is going down, the autumn, right? Things are about to get weak and imperfect and leave and perish and depart the world. The time for Maghrib sunset reminds us of many creatures' decline at the end of autumn. So we're declining. It's like the afternoon is the beginning of autumn, and Maghrib is the end. We're getting closer to the end of autumn, and also for our own death. I mean, the realization of death is hugely beneficial for our spiritual life. When we realize that death is in the corner every single moment. I think that's why Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, advised us to go to the graveyards, I think once a week or once in 2 weeks, sometimes frequent, we have to visit the graveyard and be humbled by it. So death is a huge reminder, is a form of dhikr, because in death and in the contemplation of death, we are reminded of God and how our days are numbered. Okay, it thus forewarns us, يعني agadar manakato, of the world's destruction at the resurrection's beginning. So the world's going to be destroyed, so does your life and everything that is in the realm of becoming, because this worldly life is what we call is the world of becoming. Things are born, going through the their middle lifespan, and then they are going towards death. This is becoming, right? Initially being born, in the middle of the process, then towards the ends and destruction. This is what is true of every single creature. There is not a single exception to it. Okay, teaches us how to understand the manifestation of God's mercy, majesty, and wakes us from a deep sleep of neglect. Although Maghrib could remind us of the beginning of evening and night, but still it must wake us from neglect that God's majesty is really there. The time for Isha nightfall calls to mind the world of darkness, veiling all daytime objects with its black shroud. Okay, shroud okay, and winter covering the dead Earth's surface with its white shroud. So Islam is a primordial natural religion. Look at it. Look at how a scholar links prayers to natural phenomenon. We are really intertwined as a religion to nature. So he connects it and links it to the seasons, winter, because from where he lived, there would be a lot of snows, right? How from this he realized the nightfall prayers, like winter covering the dead earth surface with a white shroud. It brings to mind the remaining works of the dead being forgotten and points to this testing arena's inevitable and complete decline. So this is a testing arena, and it has an inevitable decline. يعني دابزيني كي حتمي it could be in our health, wealth, visions, you know, auditory abilities, and everything we're declining. When you're going through old age, just look at ourselves, right? They cannot walk properly. They cannot sometimes talk properly. They cannot, everything is in decline, right? And this is a reminder of God doing however he wants and doing it for purposeful ways. Okay, night reminds us of winter, the grave, the intermediate worlds, and how much our spirit needs the all-merciful's mercy. The late night tahajjud prayer reminds and warns us of how necessary this prayer's light will be in the grave's darkness. That is really a profound realization. When you wake up to the tahajjud prayer, everything is dark, everything is calm, and the grave is probably going to be darker than the night you're waking up to. And this will be a good reminder of you know of the grave. By recalling the true bestower's infinite bounties granted during these revolutions, it proclaims how worthy he is of praise and thanks. So revolutions revolve, right? It's like a wheel of God's destiny. Wheel uh, Wheel of Fortune. وكو هناك لك اشتيا أو وكو سكانك واي, okay? This is revolving, it's revolving, and the pattern is birth, flourishing, and destruction. Okay, by nature we're weak, yet everything involves, affects, and saddens us. وكو سروش إملاوازي بلام حموش لك affect معنك بدقة معنك. We have no power, yet are afflicted by calamities and enemies. Yes, we have certain enemies in this life, spiritual, even physical enemies. We're extremely poor, yet have many needs. That's the problem. We have lots of needs, and some needs are artificial, and we cannot satisfy them, right? We're always in a wretched state of running after a lot of especially physical needs, and once we get there we're like, is that it? Was it what I was trying to get? And after a while we're going to forget it, and we're going to be following and pursuing another physical need, and so on, ad infinitum, means infinitely, until we die. We are indolent and incapable, yet the burden of life is very heavy. Being human, we're connected with the rest of the world, yet what we love and are familiar with disappears. That's the problem. What we're familiar with, it could be students, loved ones and everybody and everything disappears, and the resulting grief causes us pain. Our mentality and senses inspire us toward glorious objectives and eternal gains, but we're unable, impatient, powerless, and have only a short lifetime. So yes, our mentality and spiritual senses inspire us toward eternal gains, but our life is limited. So there must be another life that these desires are going to be fulfilled. I just want to make a caveat here and bring two other giant and towering figures. One is C.S. Lewis and the other is Fyodor Dostoevsky. So basically, I think everybody agrees that we have a long desire that to really reunite with God as believers, right? And let me just quote C.S. Lewis's idea that's going to enrich our discussion. He says, creatures are not born with desires unless satisfaction for these desires exists. Okay? يعني بونا كان دروز نبونا ببي كومالك حز بەڵام حەو حەزانە تێکردنیان هەیە لە دەرەوە. Okay, so we have the desire for food and there is a satisfaction outside. There are foods to eat, right? We become hungry and there are food. We have the desire for, I don't know, for marriage. There is marriage out there. We have desire for sleep. We can sleep. So we have all of these desires and there's always a satisfaction of these desires. Now, think about this one. It's very, very long, very, very profound. We have an innate longing and desire for that goes beyond finite pleasures. We have a long desire to love God eternally, right? And he says also in an argument that if I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, do you have any such desire that no experience in the world can satisfy, Ms. Maria, since you're present? Tell me a desire that no experience, nothing in this worldly life can satisfy it. Think about it for a while. Did you get the question right? No experience in the world can satisfy it, can fulfill it. You still have the desire. Nothing out there. No money, no vacation, no physical pleasure. Nothing of that sort can diminish this desire. Miss, are you there? You may be writing or probably busy. Oh, so okay, so nothing can satisfy and replace prayer, right? I mean, if you're given billions of dollars and they say we're going to diminish and kill the desire of prayer in your heart, it's not going to do that. So it is a spiritual. So spiritual longings, Ms. Maria, is what can never be satisfied with anything physical in the world. Okay, and okay, so nothing can satisfy, right? Yeah, so prayer, who are you praying to? Obviously, you're praying to God. So what you're desiring is actually the connection with God, as opposed to the prayer itself. So you're not desiring and feeling guilty if you couldn't manage to do the movements in the prayer, right? It is who you're praying to, the connection, the beloved. So I think it is all connected to the beloved nature of God. So God has become your beloved. That's why if you lose connection with God, if through not praying once, the connection is actually not losing but reducing it, then you're going to feel bad about it. Nothing can satisfy it. And here's what he says. Okay, so the only logical explanation is that you are made for another world, right? Nothing like, how do we account it? There must be another world to satisfy this desire. Oh, you come back sad, and spirituality for you is something that the world can never satisfy, and it is innate. It is something inherent in the nature of human beings. That's why the resurrection makes sense, because there must be a place, given the observation that everything have a external satisfaction, right? حموشتك لدرو بركرويكي هي بلام أم معنويتك نيتي لدرو ما دم وإما شوني كتير هي بويجي. That is a proof for the resurrection. يعني زين تبوني ودنيا. Okay, we're gonna come back in 10 minutes, miss.